You awake on the bridge, and produce a low, grumbling sigh. Your temples pounding, the moment still floating in your memory before fading away. In your peripheral, you see a familiar face. It's much akin to your own, just with more stories in their eyes. The twin looks at you with a look of pure sympathy, as if they could understand what this feels like. The previous times they've showed up was on the top of an apartment building, before that in your dorm room, and for some reason they always lingered around in the early days. In that era your faces didn't look alike, and things were much more innocent. The world had a much different feel during childhood. The picture wasn't fully there yet, but the part of the sky you were shown was brighter. As years passed, the scene was defined more into an eldritch scene of repetitious horror. The patterns only became fully apparent less than a decade ago. Ever since that realization, the whirlpool of spiraling emotional states progressed at a rate that of nightmares. Twin sits beside you and places a gentle hand on your shoulder. All thought is drained as you focus on the sounds of a soft wind.
First, let's be blunt. You gotta stop committing suicide. I know you desperately want it, and if you need to give me the spiel on why this was necessary again, I'm all ears. But look, this is a really time-consuming and frustrating process to correct. Here, just watch.
Vision fades momentarily before shifting to a bird's eye view of the nearby buildings. The bird begins to fly down into the church nearby, seeing a man look longingly through the window, the creature swooping through an aperture, then perching on an altar in front of the congregation. As you walk away, their voices sharply change to be a throaty, deep bass rumble. In the basement, a group of stonemasons walk in a circle around a giant floating mass of marble, continuously hitting their chisels on the mass with every beat of the grumble above. The mumble only gets deeper and faster as the chisels hit and sink. Funnily enough, their instruments never actually scathing the stone, only rebounding in eldritch otherworldly groans. The bird up top begins to chirp and writhe in pain, as its structure morphs to become another. Its bones grow faster than the skin, leaving a torn, grotesque mess in the middle of a fully formed bat skeleton. The outer layer forms from the gore, as two gemstones fly from under the altar and pierce the eye sockets, a pair of fresh eyes quickly forming around the chunks of rock. The bat staggers up, the color scheme of the ļᵃᵏᵉ still lingering on its skin. The movements quickly shift to autonomy as it takes flight, diving into the basement and crashing into the stone mass, melting into it. The mason's final chisel morphs the marble texture to sand, the particles flying off and reforming back into solid stone on the other side of the room. Through the sandstorm, the remaining mass is in the shape of a bat, one eye glimmering green like an emerald, the other black as night like onyx. The look of pain and woe is across the creature's face. The artisans travel up the stairs and towards the back of the church, the figurine floating beside them. They walk down the aisle, and all eyes in the congregation are fixed upon the statue. Their song changed to one with dozens of separate Latin rounds, all with grand four-part harmonies. As they sing, the statue begins to move slowly in rhythm, and its expression turns to one of more neutral composure. The group reaches a pair of double doors that open towards the bell tower. The stairs and the bell vanish as the statue floats up the passage and carries itself out unto the night sky. It travels above you as you walk, stopping right above the shopkeeper, emaciated dog, and homeless man from before. As your hopeless sprint begins, the statue lowers, producing a small ringing noise. The three figures all make a harmonious sound that shifts the form of the bat to a winged bear, sleeping with a look of peace across its face. It begins to move, the marble making horrendous sounds as it scrapes the pavement. The sounds are that of the innocent in the hells and the mad in their cubic infernal prisons scratching at the concrete. The scene zooms out to see you leap off the edge. Simultaneously, the dog morphs quickly on cue with a bark. The new form is one of an ashen hooded figure that reeks of unholy redemption, quickly blinking over to the statue and melting into it, forming a translucent veil over the mass. From within you see blurry details manifest. The figure moves on its own accord. The sounds of cracking bones fill the air. The veil turns to mist and converges onto the bear's nose. A bear with ebony fur walks down the street, its eyes glowing and wings beginning to stretch. Your body hits the water, and shortly after, a nexus of color and wind begins to form around the impact. Within several seconds, the nexus consumes the bridge and opens a rift to the blind, warm void. The nearby buildings move to enter the state of perfectuous ending. The black bear spreads its span and flies into the nexus. The creature morphs once more as it enters the expanse, turning into a pure black shining orb. Feeling the typhoons of euphoria brush across them, in the midst of the void is a web of red lines that seem to span both no distance and impossibly long lengths. The orb hisses as this web folds into itself and compressed to the form of an apple. The apple emits a sound like a violin and flies across the cosmos. The scene follows the apple tree to the television screen, the boy screaming for dear life. The righteous apple crashes into the screen, shattering the television and the surrounding reality into white, burning fractals. The orb falls into the cracks and begins to spin, drilling further into it. The scene shifting back to the bridge as your body is lifted from the water, back over to the railing and into a sitting position. A marble falls from the support beams, quickly expanding into the familiar form which sits beside you. Twin touches your shoulder, and you feel a jolt bring you back to your vision.
I remember this day, but not too much longer until things begin to make sense. Here, eat this. It'll help ease your worries.
Twin procures an apple from beside them and hands it to you. There is a compulsion to eat it as it is raised to your mouth without thought. As soon as the skin of the apple is pierced, you vanish, the fruit falling to the ground and rapidly rotting. You awake on the couch, the television still droning on, and after a quick press of a button, the screen turns off. Hobbling to the bedroom, you fall upon the mattress, covering up with the blankets of sweet reprieve. You think it'd be best to not go out tonight.